Hey,
Hello,
hi.
my name is Sean and I'm with FandomWire. Thank you for taking time to chat with me.
No problem. Hey, Sean, how you doing?
Doing well, how are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, man.
Perfect.
Living
So
the dream.
both of your characters are very morally ambiguous, I would say. And recently we've seen a lot of popular shows explore characters that aren't exactly likable. Why do you think that audiences are interested in morally complex stories like those about to die?
Wow, good question. I mean, I think that people, I hope that watching complex and characters with depth is ultimately more interesting, because ultimately it's a lot more fun to play. And Domitian, I know, is to quote Shrek, a lot like an onion. He's a very layered guy, has a lot going on, and that makes it really fun to sort of dig your teeth into, unlike an onion.
Do you have anything to add?
I I think it's also I think it's true. I think you're quite what Jojo said. I think that hopefully one would be enticed to watch more complex characters, and But I think it's also we're looking at a story that's 2,000 years old here, and actually it's seeing the animals that these characters are within the context of that time, and it's a very unique period of time, and I think that in itself is an intrigue as well. Yes, that the human condition, Shakespeare is still as relevant as prevalent today because the human condition, one can relate to it, but also you're telling this story. The context is paramount because otherwise the depths of that human experience of that time can't really be delved into without understanding the climate within which they're happening. So it's that balance, I guess. But I think, yeah, I'll leave that there.
Yeah. And I
Right.
think well you mentioned balance, and I think another balance that you guys really strike really well. Of course, the two of you are playing brothers, but you guys are incredibly different characters. So how was it trying to strike this balance between, having those similarities as brothers being raised by the same father versus like having these very different personalities?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think first things first, it's important to say that me and Tom are very close. We're good mates. And so the dynamic is, it's slightly different off the screen to it being in the street. It's a real pleasure working with my good friend Tom Hughes. We really hit it off from day dot. And then similarly, I think with our scenes, like we really just started going for it, and like we're working with a director like Roland. He gives you a lot of freedom to play and a lot of freedom to explore. And I think me and Tom pretty quickly just started rolling with it. Which was really fun. So I guess developing that dynamic is they've come from very, very different places, and their upbringing is totally different, and have, in a way, are like two strangers living in the same house.
Hmm.
Do you
I
have
also
anything?
think just to add to that, because it's really an interesting point, and Joe's right about them coming from different places. I think the hierarchical element of the expectation of what their lives are going to become is massive in this. So you could look at the nature of Titus and Domitian, you could look at the nurture, but it's fundamentally the schism is there from the start, and the fact that Titus's life is defined by the expectation of what he needs to become and what he fundamentally will become and step into. And whereas the missions is defined, so to speak for the mission, Joe, for a second, by the opposite, he doesn't have that. So that in itself is a schism. That's a bridge that is a challenge for them to cross, and then throw in their different rhythms, throw in their different like natural instincts, and it's a melting pot. But in terms of us working together, that kind of just took care of itself, And we didn't really talk about work a lot, did we, man? It was we'd hang out off set and on set, just kind of hope that it would just fly. And I have to say, Anthony set the tone for that. Anthony really set the tone for this being something where we get involved with each other and you listen and you play, and that was just a thrill right the way through. Thrilled to work with Anthony, and an absolute thrill to work with Jojo as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mr. Macari, I do want to say that I think your character has what I would say is the most pronounced arc in the show in terms of growth. I'm trying to dance around spoilers. But kind of what did you find interesting about exploring this transition of where your character was in the beginning to the end?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was important to me to, although I'm playing a historical character who has some pretty extreme quirks, to put it lightly, I think it's important to find the sort of vulnerability within him And I think throughout the series, as the stresses and the strains build up, the cracks start to show and his vulnerability starts to show more and more and more. And so you see through the layers of who is ultimately a very complicated, complex, albeit twisted guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really enjoyed the show and can't wait to see what you guys do next.
Thanks so much, man.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.